Less than 24 hours after Tiffiney Crawford was shot in the driveway of her own home, the van she had been found in was scrubbed clean. The blood was gone, the forensic evidence was gone, and the people who cleaned it did so with the full knowledge and permission of the police department investigating the case. That is not the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part is that the police who gave permission were the same department where the suspect's mother worked as an office manager. And then it gets worse still, because for 5 years after that, Tiffany's own mother stood by her daughter's killer. Not out of malice, but out of something that in some ways feels harder to understand. Out of love for him. This is the case of Tiffiney Crawford, a preschool teacher, a mother of 2, a woman who built something that helped nearly 9,000 people across an entire country, and who, on the night of the 2nd of May, 2017, was shot twice in the head and left slumped in the driver's seat of her van, a pink revolver placed in her left hand. She was right-handed. Tiffany Joy Webb was born on the 28th of February, 1985. She grew up in northern Alabama, in Cullman County, a small, close-knit community about 45 miles north of Birmingham. Her mother, Cheryl, described her as someone with a huge heart. She just wanted to engulf everyone around her and help them find joy, she said. Friends described her as positive, warm, magnetic, the kind of person you felt better for being around. After graduating, Tiffany earned a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education from Athens State University in 2009. She found her way into a preschool classroom in the Cullman area, and by every account she was the kind of teacher that children never forget. She sang with her class, she danced with them, she was present in a way that is rarer than it should be. But the thing that perhaps best defines who Tiffany was is what she built in her spare time. Mothers Helping. Mothers started as a Facebook support group for breastfeeding mothers, and then, because Tiffiney Crawford could not see a need without responding to it, it became something much larger. Chapters across multiple states. Teen mothers, new mothers, experienced mothers, grandmothers. All of them welcomed. All of them supported. By 2017, nearly 9,000 women had joined. In a video she recorded for a local television station, she explained what she had built.
We're there to laugh with each other, to love each other, and to just build you up in everyday motherhood.
That community would later become one of the most powerful pieces of evidence against suicide. People who had watched Tiffany build something that helped thousands of strangers could not reconcile that version of her with a woman who would take her own life. She was too out there helping other people, one person said. She would never do that. Tiffany had 3 children in her home, her son Tristan, her daughter Symphony, and Jason's teenage son Logan, from his first marriage. She had embraced all 3 of them, but beneath the surface of that full and purposeful life, the marriage had been quietly unraveling for some time. Jason Dwayne Crawford was, by his own description, more reserved than Tiffany. She was outgoing, he said. A lot of things I wasn't. Opposites attract. That much was true. But there is something else about how they came together that the story requires you to know, because it will matter later. When Jason first pursued Tiffany, she was married to someone else. He was not deterred. He described the relationship from the very beginning as fireworks. Tiffany eventually divorced her first husband. She and Jason married in 2011. They had 2 children together. He pursued a married woman and then was shocked she could be unfaithful. Think about that. Jason's mother, Rhonda Crawford, worked at the Cullman County Sheriff's Office. She had been there for years, first as secretary to a former sheriff, and by 2017 as office manager in the payroll department. It seemed like unremarkable background detail at the time. It would become central to everything. By the spring of 2017, the marriage was in serious trouble. Tiffany had grown deeply unhappy. Friends described her as feeling alone in the work of building a life. Jason, by multiple accounts, was largely absent, away from home, disengaged from family life. She had been drinking more than she usually would, 2 or 3 bottles a week, by Jason's own later testimony. She had also been having an affair with a man named Kyle Sunday. Her close friends knew, her mother knew, and by the end of April 2017, the affair had ended. Kyle had broken things off. Tiffany was upset, but she was also moving. She had taken a part-time job at a local public supermarket, quietly saving money for financial independence. Her friend Lindsay Luke later told investigators she knew exactly what she needed to leave. She was close. The day before she died, the 1st of May 2017, Tiffiney Crawford attended her very first session with a licensed counsellor named Laura Doss. It was a comprehensive intake appointment. The counsellor's professional assessment was recorded clearly. Tiffiney Crawford was not suicidal. That afternoon, while Tiffany was out of the house, Jason was at home. And on the shared computer, he found what he had suspected: messages, evidence, proof of the affair. What followed was a series of phone calls. First Tiffany, who denied it. Then her friend Maggie Derrick, who did not pick up. Then Tiffany again, and this time she confirmed it. He called Kyle Sunday. No answer. He called another friend, Caroline Gamble, who confirmed it. Then he called Tiffany again and told her to come home. Tiffany called her mother before she left. She told Cheryl that she and Jason were going to have a difficult conversation. Her mother said she did not sound worried. She sounded anxious, a little hyper. Her last words to Tiffany that night were, "I love you. Be careful." When Tiffany arrived home with the 2 younger children, Jason took the children inside and put them to bed. He had already tried to send Logan, his teenage son, next door to stay with his parents. But the door was locked. Logan came back. Jason told him to stay in his room. Then he would not let Tiffany inside the house. This lasted between 1 and 1.5 hours. He berated her. He told her to take her ring off. He called her names. He testified, in his own words, that he wanted to make her hurt inside as much as he was hurting. He described talking down to her like she was not human. Tiffany said very little. She looked at the ground. She cried so hard she was wiping her eyes and nose on her shirt. At one point she asked for her Publix work clothes. She had a shift the next day. Jason went inside, grabbed her smock and threw it at her. Then her trousers. Threw those too. "The last thing I remember," Jason would later say, "is she told me she loved me." By his account, he then walked back inside. He had just reached the laundry room when he heard a shot, a scream, and then another shot. He ran back outside, found Tiffany in the van, went back inside for his phone, and called 911 just after 11 o'clock at night.
911, Emmett. Sorry, where's your emergency?
My wife is shot. I need to out here, please.
Hey, what's the address? Hey, and tell me exactly what's going on.
My wife is been shot. She's laying in the van.
Your wife has what?
Been shot.
She's been shot. Who has she been shot by?
Please have an end of the night, please.
Sir, I'm going to need some more information from you. Where has she been shot?
She's been shot in the head.
Who shot her in the head?
I'm trying to turn the lights on so I can see.
Did she shoot herself in the head? Sir, is she breathing?
I don't know. It feels like she's breathing.
Okay, are you out there with her?
Yeah, I'm trying to lift her up so I can see.
Sir, what is your name?
My name is Jason Crawford.
Okay, you don't know who shot her?
Mm-hmm.
Has she ever tried to do anything like this before?
No, this is not like her. No.
Was she fighting with anybody?
We were having a very hard discussion. I really, like I turned to go in the house and I heard a shot, her scream, and then she shot him again.
Where's the gun at?
It's laying beside her.
That was the sentence. That one sentence. Laying beside her, not in her hand. Come back to this. It matters. Because when Cullman County deputies arrived and their body cameras were running, the pink revolver was not laying beside Tiffiney Crawford. It was in her left hand. It only fell free when a deputy reached in to check her wrist for a pulse.
Where's the gun, sir?
3625. It's right here in her hand.
Lead investigator Joe Parrish later described Jason's tone on that call as very cold. It didn't sound like somebody worried about his wife. Jason had explanations for all of it. On not answering who had shot her, I just felt like if I said it into existence, it'd be true. On sounding calm, maybe that's just the way my tone of voice is. On saying laying beside her when the gun was in her hand. It was beside her because it's on her side, in her hand. I just chose the wrong words. Those explanations would eventually play out in front of a jury. But first, this case came very close to never reaching a courtroom at all. When deputies arrived that night, Tiffany was slumped in the driver's seat of her van, leaning towards the passenger side. The revolver was in her left hand, a pink-gripped .38 Special Ruger LCR. The holster found nearby had been designed for a right-handed shooter. Tiffany wore her watch on her left wrist, as a right-handed person would. She was right-handed. Sergeant Jed Thomas, heard on body camera footage that night, said, "It appears to be a suicide." He was not the last person to say that. Before the night was over, deputies had photographed the van and collected certain items of evidence. Then they covered it with a blue tarp, and then they released it to the Crawford family. And in the same hours, before the medical examiner had been called, before Agent Parrish had been assigned, before any meaningful forensic review had taken place, Jason Crawford was allowed to leave the scene without having his hands tested for gunshot residue. He was never tested. Not that night, not the next day, not ever. No GSR test, no search of the house. He was the only one there. Let that sit with you. This is the question that every comment section on every video about this case eventually asks. How? How does a man standing meters from a woman who has just been shot twice not get tested for gunshot residue? The answer is found in those 4 words on the body camera footage. It appears to be a suicide. The responding deputies had categorized the scene before the investigation had truly begun. GSR testing is standard procedure in homicide investigations. It is not automatically initiated at a suicide scene. And because no one at Cullman County that night made the call to treat it as a homicide, despite 2 gunshots, a gun in the wrong hand, and a woman who had been shot from a distance, the window closed before it could be opened. Agent Parrish arrived the next morning and immediately asked for the van. He obtained a search warrant. By then, it had already been cleaned. Jason's father, Chris Crawford, had arrived at the van by 7 o'clock the following morning. Christina Thomas, Jason's ex-wife, came shortly after. She testified that Chris was already cleaning when she got there. Jason's mother, Rhonda, who worked, as you will remember, at the Cullman County Sheriff's Office, later testified that she had received authorization directly from Sheriff Matt Gentry and his deputies to take possession of the vehicle. She said they had even recommended a cleaning service. The primary crime scene had been cleaned, with official blessing, less than 24 hours after Tiffany died. Blood spatter patterns that could have told investigators exactly where the shooter was standing. Trace evidence, touch DNA. All of it. Gone. And standing just next door throughout all of this, watching, involved, present, was Jason Crawford's mother. The woman who worked for the office that released the van. The reason the case was eventually transferred to the State Bureau at all. Agent Parrish told reporters it was odd that they would clean it up that quick after something like that. That is perhaps the most restrained sentence in this entire case. What could still be examined told its own story. Tiffany had 2 gunshot wounds to the left side of her head. one to the cheek near the jaw, one to the temple. Neither was an exit wound, and crucially, neither was a contact wound. The gun barrel had not been pressed against the skin for either shot. Medical examiner Dr. Valerie Green of the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences performed the autopsy. Firearms examiner Damon Cooper assessed the distances. The cheek wound had been fired from somewhere between 2 and 10 inches away. The temple wound was different. There were no gunpowder particles on the skin, no abrasions. Dr. Green determined that shot had been fired from at least 10 inches away. Inside the confined interior of a van, with the door believed to have been closed, that distance was extremely difficult to account for. That's indicating she's holding her arm outward beyond 10 inches and trying to shoot herself, Dr. Green testified. Not saying it's impossible, but it's not likely. Then there was the door itself. No blood was found on the driver's side window or door. None at all. Dr. Green's interpretation was direct. "I think that door is open," she told the court, because he was standing there. Jason had told investigators the door was pulled to or closed when he found his wife. Then came the DNA results from the gun. Forensic scientist Angela Fletcher examined every surface. She found only trace amounts of DNA on the trigger, the grip, and the barrel. 2 partial samples were identified as male, but were too limited to match to any individual. A third was too small for further analysis. No identifiable female DNA was found on the weapon that Tiffiney Crawford had allegedly used on herself. Due to a backlog at the Alabama State Ballistics Laboratory, these results did not arrive for nearly 10 months. On the 8th of March, 2018, Dr. Green officially declared the manner of death homicide. A week after Tiffany's death, Agent Parrish brought Jason in for his first formal interview. Jason spoke about discovering the affair, the argument that followed, and confirmed that Tiffany was right-handed. Approximately 2 weeks later, he was brought back in and given a polygraph examination. He was told he had failed. The interview grew heated. Jason walked out. No arrest was made.
So you ruined our home. He's like, you're no longer part of this.
Was she left or right hand?
She's right-handed.
Right. Your reactions were off the chain.
You're saying that there's no way that you shot your wife?
Correct. I don't want to hear that I didn't shoot my wife. Because I know
I couldn't get up and leave because I'm under arrest, right?
You listen to me, huh? Walk out that. Oh, you know what?
Throughout all of it, Tiffany's mother Cheryl stood by her son-in-law. When asked why she had not pressed investigators for details about why they suspected him, Cheryl said, "I suppose I didn't want to let that cloud my time with my grandkids and my relationship with Jason and his family." She was not deceived. She was not manipulated into silence. She was making a choice, and the choice she made in the 5 years between Tiffany's death and Jason's trial was to keep her grandchildren close at any cost. People who watched this from the outside struggled to understand it. But for those willing to follow her journey through to the end, Cheryl McGuckin would eventually say everything that needed to be said. In May 2018, roughly 12 months after Tiffany died, a Cullman County grand jury returned an indictment charging Jason Crawford with murder. He surrendered on the 21st of May. He was released on a $100,000 property bond after approximately 30 minutes in custody. Just days before turning himself in, he had attended the dedication of a memorial bench at Sportsman Lake Park in Cullman, placed there in Tiffany's memory by the Mothers Helping Mothers community. A plaque read, "Your life was a blessing, your memory a treasure." He stood there and watched it be unveiled. Then came 4 more years of delays, pre-trial motions, defense preparations, a global pandemic. The case that had been scheduled for 2020 was postponed, and then again. By the time the trial was finally ready, 5.5 years had passed since Tiffiney Crawford was shot in her own driveway. Her children had been growing up without her for all of it. The trial opened on the 14th of November, 2022. Cullman County Circuit Judge Martha Williams presided. Assistant District Attorney Jeff Roberts prosecuted. Defense attorneys Robert Touton and Nicholas Heatherly represented Jason Crawford. The prosecution's case was built on an accumulation of evidence pointing, piece by piece, to one conclusion: the gun in the wrong hand, 2 wounds at distances inconsistent with self-infliction, no female DNA on the gun, a door with no blood on the window, a 911 call in which a man could not bring himself to say who had shot his wife. Motive was established early. Tiffany's mother Cheryl was called as the first witness. To the visible surprise of the courtroom, she testified that she had never had any issues with Jason. Juror Megan Brock later recalled her reaction. She was telling everybody me and Jason have a great relationship. I was like, really? Undeterred, the prosecution moved forward. Counselor Laura Doss testified that Tiffany was not suicidal at their appointment on the 1st of May. Dr. Green presented the forensic findings in full. Angela Fletcher presented the DNA results from the gun. Firearms instructor James Curtis testified that during a safety course in the winter of 2016 to 2017, Tiffany had always fired using a 2-hand grip. Right-handed, both hands. She had never fired with her left hand alone. The defense brought in their own medical examiner, Dr. James Lauritsen, former chief medical examiner for the state of Alabama, who testified that Tiffany had shot herself first in the jaw and then in the temple, and that the distance from the temple wound could not be reliably determined because her hair may have filtered the gunpowder particles. Logan Crawford, now a young man, took the stand for the defense. He testified that just before the shots, he had heard the back door shut and the baby gate open and close. His father, he said, was inside the house. It was the single most significant piece of testimony in Jason's favor. Then Jason Crawford himself took the stand on the 18th of November. He denied killing his wife. He described the argument. He described the affair. And then, while describing the moment he threw Tiffany's work clothes at her, he laughed. Not a nervous laugh, just a laugh. He was a defendant in a murder trial, talking about the last conversation he ever had with the woman who was found dead minutes later, and he laughed. The jury noticed. During cross-examination, Ada Roberts challenged Jason directly. Jason called Tiffany degrading names from the witness stand. He argued with the prosecutor without being asked. Judge Williams had to address him by name. "I'm not asking you," she told him. Closing arguments were completed. Deliberations began at 3:15 in the afternoon. The jury deliberated for hours without consensus. Then they sent a request back to the courtroom. They wanted the body camera footage. Then, not long after, they asked for one more thing: the 911 recording. Juror Megan Brock later described what happened next. They sat and listened to Jason's voice. They heard him tell the dispatcher the gun was laying beside her. They heard him refuse to answer who had shot his wife. Then they watched the body camera footage one more time. The gun, still in Tiffany's left hand, barely but unmistakably present, before falling free when the deputy reached in. Brock recalled the moment. When we listened to that 911 call again, that was it. He clearly said the gun was laying beside her, but the body camera showed her holding it. At 8:05 in the evening, on the 18th of November 2022, after approximately 5 hours of deliberations, the jury returned. Each of the 12 jurors was polled individually. Each one confirmed the verdict. Jason Crawford was guilty of murder in the first degree. He was handcuffed and removed from the courtroom. On the 10th of March, 2023, Judge Martha Williams sentenced Jason Crawford to 99 years in prison. Under Alabama law, he would be eligible to apply for parole after serving 15 years. Before sentence was passed, Cheryl McGuckin stood and spoke directly to the man who had killed her daughter. She said she could not understand how he had been able to look her in the eye for 5.5 years. Then she asked the question, "Jason, if not you, who? You were there. You know the truth. I pray you will someday find wisdom and strength to speak the truth." Her grandchildren, Tiffany's children, were sitting in the front row. Jason maintained his innocence. When asked outright whether he had killed her, he said, "No, I don't think so." Cheryl said it plainly, "There's no justice here. Everybody loses." And she's right. Tiffany's children have grown up without her. The 9,000 women she connected lost the person who built something for them out of nothing but kindness. And the new chapter she had been quietly working towards, the savings, the counselor, the plan, was taken before she ever got to live it. Tiffiney Crawford was born on the 28th of February, 1985. She was 32 years old when she died. Please don't forget Tiffany.